When it comes to these convalescent centers and nursing homes, that was an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I live right around the corner from one, and it's a pretty
Mhm.
famous one because they take a lot of Social Security. They're pretty big. They're in California, Oregon, all over the West Coast, and then here in Nevada. And I went over there and I said, "Hey, listen, I live on this block. I just want to help out. I have maintenance skills because I ran a janitorial company, and I feel like you guys are really inundated right now. You could use the help." I went to work there for a little while,
Wow.
and I can't even tell you how COVID ravaged that whole place. They had it sectioned off where it's called clear rooms,
Right.
meaning those people were supposed to be screened for COVID and came up negative, right? And then they had yellow, which was people that had been screened and the test hadn't come back yet, or it had come back but they had been vaccinated or what have you. And then they had red, which was for people that had they couldn't get the vaccination, and
Right.
some of those people had COVID. That was the state approved quarantining for that location. We
Yeah.
had to put people that were convalescing for other issues that where they couldn't get vaccinated next to somebody who had COVID and also couldn't get vaccinated because of just not having the room to separate them. It was like a death sentence.
It's it was horrible. It was horrible. And it didn't help any measures now that you're reading this that the CDC and Trump, they couldn't get on the same page and they couldn't even get access to give press conferences. Like, I can't even imagine what it would have been, what it would be like working at the CDC or the WHO, knowing that you are working around the clock to try to come up with the best treatments, cures, and whatever for people, and the president is ignoring all of it, and you're seeing just people die over and over and over again, and you're like, what am I doing?
Yep.
And then when you try to tell people, you're screamed at, you're hated by the public.
Yep. And a lot of the people in that industry, in nursing homes, convalescents, they themselves are older.
Yes.
I'm in there, and imagine me, I'm in there, I'm sweeping, I'm doing maintenance stuff. A guy who was in there who had a hole in his chest due to an autoimmune issue, he's in the red zone, sees me going by and I'm checking garbages and stuff, and he stops me and he says, "Hey, would you come talk to me for a second?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I went to the doorway because you're not allowed to enter the room without putting on the PPE. I had to stop at the doorway. And he's talking about being there and we're chatting. And then I say to him, "I'll come back around, I'll see you again, but I got to continue doing what I'm doing." And he goes, "Well, I just want to let you know I appreciated you stopping because who knows if I'll even be here when you come back around." This was every day that I was there. And
And they didn't have the proper PPE in the beginning. My friend was showing me they were cutting garbage bags and, doing all these, like, it was just ridiculous. She was like, why did we not? There's a national stockpile. What the fuck happened to the national stockpile? I started playing the documentary from PBS about how Trump handled the pandemic, and it showed that Trump moved the stockpile from the CDC warehouse to the White House or whatever, under White House control. And she's like, oh, that's what happened to it. We knew we had a stockpile somewhere. So everybody was like, where the fuck is all of our PPE?
it was all political. I don't know who that person is. Everything touted by the leftists about COVID narratives is misinformation. Let me tell you something. All of you people that keep saying this, did you get up at any point and go to your local hospital?
Nope.
Get up at any point and go to your local nursing home and go see those people. Go down and volunteer at the Red Cross. I volunteered at the Red Cross in high school. Y'all, any of y'all ever given back to your community in any way where you could see the impact of COVID on your community? I guarantee you didn't. The aristocracy of that mindset that let them eat cake. If you so poor that you die of COVID, then that's your fault nonsense. Is just it's so sickening, it's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
nauseating. It's nauseating.
Yeah, the bottom line was Trump did not want to shut the country down because he did not want the economy to crash because that would have made him look bad. And of course, he would have lost money and all of his friends would have lost money. That's all that they cared about. That was it.
Exactly. All the politics and power, none of the care for the American citizenry at all. The people that made it through that era, they were smart enough to follow certain guidelines, get vaccinated, protect themselves and their family, or it was just sheer luck. It was just sheer luck because the amount of people that we lost in that was actually comparable to the Civil War. It's comparable to other countries' civil wars. It was the product of our political system that's supposed to protect the citizenry, looking out for itself and becoming, yep, very myopic and looking out for their next 4 years. Because that's really what it was when he stood on that freaking balcony and took the mask off, even though he had just barely made it by the skin of his own teeth. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It, it,
He had to be really sick to go to the hospital because he did not want to go. So he had to have been really sick to go.
they said he was unconscious by the time they put him in the chopper. He was
Oh
unconscious. But this is a man that would die for the dollar. He would
yes.
die for the power. He will never back down and apologize and take it out. That's who they wanted, right? And he got caught up in COVID, finding himself on the wrong side of it, and he used the same tools to handle a nationwide crisis, a worldwide crisis. And we
Yeah.
saw how well that went. Over 1 million people.
We should have only shut the country down for 2 weeks. Look at Florida as a model. Florida is a shit show. Florida is a shit show. And we were shut down for more than 2 weeks. Like we couldn't even go to the beach or anything. But no, DeSantis fought back against a lot of the lockdown measures too, and we had one of the largest deaths from COVID in the country because our economy, Florida's economy, is all based on tourism. So shutting down our state would have tanked our economy. So it's like, what do you do? Do you shut the country down and tank the economy, or do you just let it run? But I think we could have still kept the country somewhat open if the proper mitigation strategies and measures were put into place, as far as, shutting down anything that wasn't like necessary, and then just having social distancing in place for everything else and mask mandates and vaccine mandates. But nobody was going to do all that.
If I'm Florida in that situation, I take the loss on the economy and look for a federal bailout from the government
Right.
because the number one thing is to protect the people.
Yes.
The economy could come back, you know. And instead, they silenced a lot of your reporters. Didn't they drag that one woman out of her house one day? She was home. Something about she was
The
reporting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it didn't go quite that way because all the body cam footage has come out, but that was Rebecca Jones. That's the one that's running against Matt.
Yeah. So they hid numbers. They did everything to protect the dollar. Very little to protect the people.
Yeah. That's all this
You know.
country that's all this country cares about.
Yep. And we have those protocols in place. So, like when in 2005 when Katrina happened and New Orleans was just blown down, French Quarters area, the tourism area, was able to press what was that guy's name, Jim Brown and Bush and them to get money to revamp that area and bring it back. It was back within months of Katrina, while the rest of New Orleans was still digging out from underneath the water. Their tourism, their cornerstone of their economy, was back due to federal funds being fun. So that was never an excuse. It was just a way to side again for the Florida government at that time to side with who they thought was going to remain in a seat of power, which was the Trump administration, and Trump administration siding with their constituents, you know.
Speaking of, I got this bullshit in the mail today. This motherfucker. Coming soon to a ballot near you, Ron DeSantis is the top governor. Let me take this fucking bullshit off. Motherfucker.
Oh God.
Number one, he was a fucking JAG officer. He was a fucking attorney. What is this shit? What is this shit? Top Gun my ass. Look at that smile. That is so fake. Look at his fake ass smile. Coming soon to a ballot near you, Ron DeSantis is top governor.
Miramar.
Where do you see Miramar?
No, that's where Top Gun took place at Miramar.
Ron DeSantis is on a mission to keep Florida safe, strong, and free. After 4 years of accomplishments, there's more to be done. Governor DeSantis will break the record he set this year by enacting the largest tax relief package in history, which will cut the price of tolls, repeal sales tax on baby items, and exempt household items under $25 from sales tax. Governor DeSantis will continue to pay to support education and protecting parents' rights, continuing to raise teacher pay, and prohibiting tuition increases at our state universities. Governor DeSantis will target additional infrastructure efforts to reduce congestion, finish outstanding Everglades restoration projects, and continue to advance career and technical education initiatives. Ron DeSantis saved our state by keeping the economy and schools open and rejected mandates. He will continue to stand with Floridians and will keep hitting the target. Keep freedom flying high into Florida.
Does the Florida School Union back DeSantis though? I'm looking it up right now.
I don't know.
The teachers union?
And then this came in, and it says, Charlie Crist will do to Florida what Joe Biden has done to America. So I thought this was a Charlie Crist ad, because I was like, cool, I'm all for that.
Right.
No, it's DeSantis. I don't know what he's on. DeSantis will protect Florida, enacted largest tax release in Florida history. He just did that. Kept Florida open, saving jobs and businesses while outpacing the nation on economic growth and low employment rates. Prohibited COVID vaccine passports and mandates because Floridians shouldn't have to choose between a job they need and a shot they don't want. Funny he didn't call it the jab, because in his press interviews he keeps calling it the fucking jab.
Which is their little tagline to let you know that they're all saying it for Trump. They're not just saying it.